Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have two great guests this evening, Alan Dershowitz and David Schoen, experts on the Constitution and men who know an awful lot about American history and what's going on in Israel. Two great guests. But before we get to them, I'm deeply concerned about how this administration is publicly turning on the state of Israel. Joe Biden said the other day that the Israelis are indiscriminately bombing Gaza. That is a flat-out lie. They have tens of thousands of infantry there, and that's not what they're doing. He says that the international community is turning on the Jews. I guess he missed the vote in the UN General Assembly the other day. The international community has always been against Israel and the Jews. He's withholding M16s from Israel that Israel wants to purchase to, in part, arm the Jews who are in Judea and Samaria, because Hamas and other terrorist operations are now implanted there. In fact, they seem to be targeting the Jews in Judea and Samaria on visa challenges and everything else. They don't have any evidence. I've looked online. I've dug very hard into this issue. That said, they keep calling for ceasefires, temporary, permanent, and now they say, okay, let them go at it for a while. And yet we're arming the Iranians. All the major sanctions that were placed on the Iranians have been waived from day one. So Iran has been armed up. It's using its money and its weapons to get to terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. Well, why are they doing that? I don't know. They are funding Hamas directly by giving money to UNRWA that Donald Trump cut off. Now UNRWA is giving millions and millions of dollars, and UNRWA is a cesspool. We're arming the PLO directly. Donald Trump cut that off in violation of the Taylor Force Act. And what does that say? You don't get any American money if you don't stop killing Israeli Jews and other people in Israel. Well, and there's no new sanctions on Iran. We're not really doing anything about Iran building nuclear weapons. There's no serious military response to the attack on American soldiers and bases that are in that part of the world. And here at home, there appears to be no federal urgency at the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division at Education, or the Department of Homeland Security to protect Jewish students on college campuses, to daily beat the drums about what's taking place in this country. Every time they mention, when they do mention anti-Semitism, they feel the need to mention Islamophobia. There is no Islamophobia in America. As I've said before, Islamophobia is in the Middle East, where Muslims are slaughtering Muslims. That's not going on in this country. And Muslims are not running to their dorm rooms and locking themselves in, or the lunch rooms, or the attics. They're not afraid to go to class, and so forth and so on. And I could go on and on and on, but why should I when I have a guest like Alan Dershowitz here? What do you make of all this?
Well, you're 100% right. This is an attack against the world. We just learned that now Hamas is expanding its scope, and it wants to attack Jewish entities in Europe. It's coming to a theater near you. If Hamas is not stopped in the Middle East, it will spread all over the world. It will start with Jewish institutions, as it often does, but it will spread to Christian institutions, it will spread to other institutions, and we'll be in a global war with Hamas as we were with ISIS and al-Qaeda. And we must do to Hamas what the American troops under Roosevelt and under Churchill did to Japan and Germany. Total unconditional surrender, total war, total defeat. We must wipe out Hamas. And people say you can't wipe out an ideology. Nonsense. We wiped out Nazism, except that it's coming back at some university campuses 75 years later. But we wiped it out in the follow-up to the Second World War, after we killed all the Nazis and killed and imprisoned and tried all the Japanese imperialists. So you can wipe out an ideology if you wipe out the leaders, and that's what Israel, with the help of the United States, has to do. In terms of indiscriminate bombing, did you see the other day that 9 Israeli soldiers and 1 commander were killed precisely because they didn't use bombing? They could have bombed the area they were in, but they didn't want to kill civilians, so they sent young men and women, 19, 20-year-old IDF soldiers, and they had an ambush, and they were all killed. And they were killed precisely because they're not using indiscriminate bombing. They're being very precise. Never in the history of warfare has any country taken more efforts and sacrificed more to avoid killing civilians on the other side. That's the truth.
It is the truth, and I want to speak another truth, Professor Dershowitz. I'd like your opinion. We keep hearing about the Palestinian civilians, that they don't want any of this. There's 2 surveys done in the last 3.5 weeks. One is by the Arab World for Research and Development. That doesn't sound like an American Jewish front group to me, and it's not. And what did they write? Taken as a whole, the results indicate that an overwhelming percent of Palestinians support the October 7 massacre, 75%. Reject coexistence with Israel, 86%. Are committed to the restoration of historical Palestine, which means the elimination of Israel, as a final solution, 71%. They support the creation of a Palestinian state from the river to the sea, the annihilation of Israel, 75%, as the end of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These are Palestinians who were surveyed in Gaza and Judea and Samaria. They said the Palestinian positive perception of terror organizations remains high, despite their role in carrying out the massacre and disastrous results. 76% believe that Hamas plays a somewhat to very positive role. 84% believe that the Palestinian Islamic Jihad plays a somewhat to very positive role. 80% believe that Fatah's terror wing, the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, plays a somewhat to very positive role. And 88.6% believe that Hamas's armed wing, the Al-Qassam Brigades, plays a somewhat to very positive function. So why do the media keep telling us there's this tremendous distinction, this great distance between Hamas and other terrorist groups and the people who elect them and support them? Why do they keep telling us that?
Well, it's a lie. We know that not only do the vast majority of people in Gaza and on the West Bank support the Hamas atrocities, in Gaza, many of them helped it. Remember when Hamas broke through the fence and started killing Israelis, Gazan civilians followed them. They participated in the rapes, the beheadings, the murders. Gazan civilians helped them by having tunnels under their homes, by having command centers, by having rockets being fired from schools and from mosques. So look, we all have to be sympathetic to the babies and the children who are used as human shields, by the way, by Hamas. And every single one of these babies who were killed is the responsibility of Hamas. But I'm far less sympathetic to the adults who aggressively support Hamas. You know, if they were in America, they'd be tried for crimes because you can't, under American law, provide material support for a terrorist group. And these Gazans are providing material support for Hamas, which is a terrorist group. And as I say, it's coming to America. It's coming to Europe. Hamas is not going to stop. If it prevails in the Middle East, it's going to continue just the way Al-Qaeda and other groups have continued. So we have to stop it in the interest of America.
And this isn't a one-off survey. A couple of days ago, a survey was done by a Palestinian survey operation. And as pointed out at AP News, a wartime opinion poll among Palestinians published last Wednesday shows a rise in support for Hamas. The findings by a Palestinian pollster signal more difficulties ahead for the Biden administration post-war vision. Who gives a damn about the post-war vision of the Biden administration? The Israelis are fighting for their survival. They are surrounded by Hamas, the PLO, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran, and AP writes about it's a political problem for Joe Biden. Aren't you sick and tired of reading the politicization of this? This is reality, is it not?
It is, and Israel should be a bipartisan issue. All sides should support Israel without regard to what parties they belong to. And there's been a rise in popularity of Hamas in the United States as well. On October 8th, the day after these horrors that occurred on September 7th, students at Harvard supported Hamas. The National Lawyers Guild supported Hamas. I document all of this. I wrote a book right after the events at question. I started writing it on October 7th, the war against the Jews, and in it I document how increased support for Hamas occurred among the hard left. The hard left has become the enemy of justice, of decency, of academia, and we have to continue our fight, not only against Hamas, but against Hamas supporters in the United States that can become easily a fifth column. Remember in the 1970s when the weathermen started blowing up universities, trying to blow up Fort Dix? That's going to happen here. We have a fifth column of hard left Hamas supporters, many of them Muslim, many of them not Muslim, many of them hard left kids. Our friends' children are marching with Hamas. And that's why it's so dangerous to Americans and to the world, and why we have to fight back.
Ideologically, we have a combination on our college campuses and beyond of an Islamist and a Marxist ideology, because they both support the same thing, the destruction of the Enlightenment, the destruction of Western culture, and they are genocidal. Your book, The War Against the Jews, How to End Hamas Barbarism. Let me tell you what's fascinating about your book, among other things. How you wrote it as quickly as you did, how you got it published as quickly as you did, and it's not only prescient, it's up to date on everything that's going on in this country, which is why I wanted to have you on. You can get this on Amazon.com. Any major bookstore. And when we come back, Alan Dershowitz, I want to talk more about what's going on here domestically, because last week there was a vote in the House of Representatives, led by the Republicans yet again, saying we need to make the point that we urge MIT and Harvard to fire their presidents or for them to resign after this disastrous hearing we had in the House of Representatives. 109 Democrats voted no. I want to pursue that with you when we return.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.